Hey guys, this is Crafterman, and welcome to my very last video on YouTube ever. Yep, I know, I've had a lot of fun doing this, but for my very last video, I'm going to do a video that covers everything about the Green Plateau world, which is going to be all of the provinces and in the Green Plateau world. Last week I did a video on the history of the entire Green Plateau world, so you can watch that because I make a lot of references to that in this video, or you can just be confused, whatever. Anyway, so yeah, in this video I'm going to be covering all the provinces. Here I have a map of all the provinces in the world, but I'm only going to be doing the Green Plateau provinces because a lot of these are Titan provinces that are belong to us now, but that's because we just won them over because we just defeated the Titans. So yeah, this is only going to be covering these provinces, the Green Plateau provinces. Now, right before we get started, I want to clarify a few things because, especially to those of you who are not very familiar with the Green Plateau channel, it's probably very confusing, like, what is the Green Plateau? What are all these provinces I keep hearing about? So yeah, and it is very confusing because the word Green Plateau can refer to so many things. Like, the series is called Green Plateau, this entire country is called Green Plateau, this thing is the Green Plateau, and there's a thing in it that's called the Green Plateau. Like, what? So, yeah. Now, the reason everything's named after the Green Plateau is because that's where it all started. Now, I'm going to talk about each of the 12 provinces, but first I'm going to talk about this place, the Green Plateau itself, which is where it all started, and that's why everything's named after it. So yeah, this right here is the Green Plateau Capital District. It's not really a province, it's kind of just the area that rules over all of the other provinces, and it's where the Green Plateau is. And that's why the country is called Green Plateau, and everything else are the provinces of the Green Plateau. So everything else you saw here, all the provinces, are like divisions of the Green Plateau country. So yeah, now, today the world is huge, and there are lots of provinces, but it wasn't always this way. Like, for all of Season 1, this was just, like, my entire world, because I hadn't really explored farther than this. Well, I had, but I hadn't really built anything. So, like, my entire realm was just in this area for, like, Season 1 of the series. And that's where the literal Green Plateau was. So here's what the Green Plateau looks like today, the Green Plateau itself. And this is where it's literally a plateau. The plateau itself is not green, but I named it green because of the green of the jungle that's everywhere around it. So yeah. Now, season one, the first place I ever made my first video and the first, like, house I built was in what is today the Green Plateau. And back then it was also the Green Plateau, just didn't look the same. So over the years it developed and everything, and I also had like the city of Manplatin, which was beside it, which is now the capital city of the country. And the city eventually developed into the big shining metropolis we know today. And yeah, and the plateau got built up over the years too. But like over the years, I branched out and made all these other provinces, which are provinces of the Green Plateau. And the Green Plateau is still where I did live up until the end of the series when I left. But and now there's a new leader of the plateau, Vaporizer. I'll talk about him later when I get to his former province. So yeah, that's basically all there is for the Green Plateau Capital District. So now let's start talking about the provinces. So the first province we're going to be talking about is Exaversia. This one. Now this one is a very weird case because it's right next to the Green Plateau, which is here, and it actually used to be part of the Green Plateau itself because like back in season 1 when I was like in the Green Plateau, I would roam into the lands that are now Exaversia just like all the time for like mob hunting or mining or whatever. And for a while it was part of the Green Plateau itself. That this all changed when we got to the Civil War with Petercraft, and yeah, he bombed a lot of the Green Plateau's territory, especially this part of it. Like, it got completely griefed. So I eventually made it its own separate thing. I, I, I didn't want that land to be part of the Green Plateau's territory. Like, the Green Plateau is the capital city. You don't want it to be all full of craters and everything. So I asked the nearby provinces if they wanted the land, and they didn't want the land either. So for a really long time, the land was just like a dead province with no one running it and nothing in it. And like as you can see here, this is where you first join the world. Exaversia, which is the name I gave to it, was never on here. It was just like an empty piece of land that was separating the Green Plateau from the rest of the world. Until one day, during the Titan War, there were a lot of animal tribes that got displaced. So I cleaned up the Exaversia land a little bit, and I gave them reservations for them to live on. And of course, it's still covered in craters, but the reservations are the ones that look nice and everything. So yeah, that's basically the story of Exaversia. So now it's completely run by those animal tribes. It's the only one of the Green Plateau provinces that's not run by a human. So yeah, now moving on to the next province, Nava Ket. Now, aside from like Exaversia, which was technically part of the Green Plateau territory at first, Nava Ket was the first other province I discovered. On my first journey in like episode 42 or something, my first journey away from the Green Plateau to discover new land, I discovered Nava Ket because I discovered like a really cool desert pyramid. Side note, this desert pyramid was actually the palace of Emperor Distan in the Distan Empire hundreds of years ago. If you don't know what I'm talking about, and you want to know what I'm talking about, you can watch my previous video about history of the entire Green Plateau world. Link is in the description. Anyway, back to Nava Ket. So yeah, there was a village that I used for mob hunting. This land that was Nava Ket. Actually, all of the provinces have jobs like, and the job of Nava Ket is mob hunting. And for each of the provinces, before they were provinces, they actually used to be just villages with numbers, and they became provinces when I started branching out from those villages and started making giving each of the villages territory and then building more things in that territory. So that's how the villages turned into provinces. But back when this was a village, it was Village 10. And yeah, during the Civil War with Petercraft, there were quite a few battles fought here. But Nava Ket, once it became a province, it started to develop really well. There's a lot of cool stuff in Nava Ket. And during the Titan War, it did really well. Uh, the province Nava Ket was once surrounded by Titans on all three sides, but it actually managed to defend itself and never got conquered by the Titans, unlike a lot of other provinces. And yeah, it's actually it helped us win the war with the Titans because at one point in the middle of the war, Nava Ket sort of went rogue and developed its own military. So now it's talking about becoming its own country with using this flag instead of their current flag. And I'm not sure if that's going to happen, but if it does, they've earned it because they really, it's thanks to Nava Ket that we won the war with the Titans. So yeah, that's the province Nava Ket. Now let's talk about the next province, Ravinia. So Ravinia is right over here, and it's the mining province. So I discovered this actually on a journey by helicopter back in season 1 when I was also exploring for more territory, and I also discovered a really cool ravine, and it became like a mining colony, and soon, like almost all the provinces, it was a village at this point, Village 12. There was some fighting over it in the Civil War, like at first it belonged to our side, then belonged to the Blue Plateau, which was the other side during the Civil War, run by Petercraft. But it recovered from the Civil War really well, and it's developed really well. It has a lot of really cool old-fashioned looking places and stuff. So yeah, the only problem was, unlike Nava Ket, which we just discovered, Ravinia got hit really hard by the Titan War. It was conquered by Titans. It was actually like swarmed by tons of mobs, and even today, some of the remnants like from the war still remain. It's gonna take a while to clean it up, but just like all the other lands that the Titans used to own, it's now restored back to our control, and is working to rebuild itself. So yeah, that's Ravinia. So now the next province is Nuclea, right over here. It's got an interesting name, which I'll explain very soon. So, just like the last two provinces I discovered, that I discussed, Nuclea was actually also discovered during Season 1 when I was exploring for new territory. I actually flew over and just built a little sort of house here, and this was completely alien territory to me. I was just sort of exploring and not really settling anywhere. But I didn't know that I had accidentally built this house in the lair of Kronos, who was let's just say he was a bad guy. He was working for King Ender. Again, if you have no idea what I'm talking about, you can watch the history episode. And yeah, so I actually had landed in his lair, and then he attacked me and killed me. I respawned, of course. But yeah, after this, after King Ender fell, I actually went back to this tiny little house that I made and turned it into a village. It became Village 5, and there was a battle in it during the Civil War. Petercraft tried to take it over, but he failed miserably, and it's actually the place where the Green Plateau successfully used its first nuke, which gave the province the name Nuclea. So, yeah, now this is the capital city that used to be Kronos' lair, and the crater from when we nuked Petercraft is still on display. And it's not a very big province, but it's a cool province. This is also the town in Nuclea where Vaporizer, who I'm going to talk about in the next province, where he grew up. He was governor of the province Borealis, but he first lived in Nuclea for a while before he was governor. And yeah, there's just a little small, nice little province. It's one of the smaller ones, and wasn't really involved during the Titan War because it didn't like border any Titan provinces. But yeah, it's a pretty cool place. So now let's talk about Borealis. Now, Borealis is the largest province in terms of land area. It doesn't look like it, but there's a lot of area further north that just kind of got cut off the map. But yeah, it is the largest. Take my word for it. So yeah, I first discovered it actually in season 2 when I was like in Nuclea at the time. It's right next to Nuclea, and I was going on a camping trip to like some unexplored territory around Nuclea, and I discovered a village here, and the village soon would eventually become Borealis. Now, at first it was Village 2. It was the stone mining village, and it was never like very like developed or anything. It was always sort of like um, sort of underdeveloped, not very successful. But then when Vaporizer became governor of this place, he renovated it really well. Now, of course, Borealis is really huge, and aside from like, it doesn't really have that many cities. It's well, it does, but like, it's very sparsely like developed because it's just so huge, and there's so many cool natural stuff around here. So many cool natural stuff. I gotta work on my grammar. And there are like a few small towns here and there, but the main town is the capital city. It used to be like very poor looking, but then Vaporizer became governor and completely renovated it. And it's now one of the biggest cities in the world, and it's a huge center for trade and stuff. And it was actually an important military base was in Borealis, and even though Borealis is the stone mining province, it still got like renovated under Vaporizer's governorship into the like you can see some pretty cool quarry over here. And yeah, there's Borealis was involved in the Titan War a lot, but Borealis was actually the first GP province to conquer a Titan province. Like we out in like the far wildernesses of Borealis, we were fighting the Titans for a while, but we actually did really well there because Borealis and under Vaporizer's leadership had a really strong military. And yeah, like you can the battlefields that were fought over are still on display today. And yeah, Borealis conquered the Titan province Lasek, which was the first of the Green Plateau's official conquests. So yeah, and from there, we actually conquered the Titan capital and won the war. So Borealis has always been a very important province. And after the Titan War, no, actually no, during the Titan War, Vaporizer, the governor of Borealis, ran for deputy and got elected. And after the war, when I left, he became leader. So yeah, Borealis is actually talking about becoming its own country as well as Nava Ket, and it would only do that. It's planning on making like a big Western Union of all the Western provinces because like the Western military split from the rest of the Green Plateau's military during the Titan War because the Titans conquered the province Laan. I'll talk about that next, which sort of cut off the east from the west. So since it has its own military, it's talking about becoming its own country and would use this flag. So anyway, now let's talk about the province Laan. So Laan is right over here, and as the flag implies, it's the farming province. Personally, I don't love this flag. It's like a sort of wheat on grass with the sky background. That's what it's supposed to symbolize. It's okay. But yeah, anyway, Durlan has had a really long history, and historically is the most fought over province, like, out of all of them. Like, it's because it has such rich farmland everywhere. A lot of people have tried to take it over the years. So it started out in the beginning of season 2 as just a little small farming colony because the farmland there was so good and there were so many natural resources around it. And it became Village 11 at first. And the governor of Village 11 was someone you may have heard of, Peter Craft. Now, this is actually what started the Civil War because Peter Craft was governor of Darlan. It was called Village 11 at the time. And he wanted to do, like, whatever he wanted and, like, within his village. And we didn't allow that, so he kind of rebelled. So, yeah, Darlan has been fought over many times. First, it was us taking it from Peter Craft. Then it was a failed attempt at Peter Craft taking it back. Then it was a successful attempt at Peter Craft taking it back. His deputy Kaboominator was the one who really did, like, the dirty work. And yeah, but like after the Civil War ended, okay, quick note: there are a lot of misconceptions. Like uh, the Civil War was between the Green Plateau and the Blue Plateau, who had split away. But like after the Civil War ended, there was a period of time where we let the Blue Plateau be their own country, with Kaboominator, who overthrew Peter Craft in charge. But the Blue Plateau pretty soon fell apart after Peter Craft tried to rise back up to power, and then the Green Plateau regained control of the entire world. But yeah, like during the times when the Blue Plateau was existing peacefully with the Green Plateau, Durlan actually thrived pretty well as part of the Blue Plateau. And then when it became part of the Green Plateau again, it was doing, okay. And then there was also a very hostile tribe of animals called the Montane tribe who lived in Durlan, well, the territory of Durlan. And they actually caused a lot of trouble towards the beginning of season 3 that actually sort of initiated the Titan War long term. But once we dealt with the Montane tribe, Durlan flourished really well. Like, some huge farms were built, like, a lot of really cool things were built, and these things are still here today. But, of course, the fighting didn't end there, because Durlan was actually the first province to be conquered by the Titan army, and for most of the Titan War, Durlan was under Titan occupation, and today it belongs to us. But, like, another thing, Durlan has gone through more governorships than any other province, and therefore has had more flags over the years than any other province. This was the flag of Durlan when it was still Village 11. This was when it was under Peter Craft's control. This is back when it had been restored to our control, and its governor was Aquamarine, who was in some of those photos back there. And then this was the flag of Durlan after the Green Plateau took it back officially, and Crazy Boy was the governor. This was the flag of Durlan after, while it was under Titan occupation. And this is the current flag with X Esquire as the governor. But X Esquire was kind of working with the Titans during the Titan War secretly, and he has turned back to the side of the like the Titans are dead, so there's nothing he can do about it. But still, like he's kind of Durlan is not treated well by the rest of the Green Plateau because Durlan was sort of helping the Titans. So Durlan may also split up into their own nation, and it would use this flag. So that's what so many flags. Like a lot of provinces, a lot of the most successful provinces are now planning to split off into their own separate nations, which is okay because they wouldn't be like enemies of the Green Plateau. Because like now that there's no real enemy for everyone to fight, they're sort of branching off and doing their own thing, which is okay because I'm not the leader of the Green Plateau anymore. Your problem now, Vaporizer. So yeah, now let's talk about the next province, Esterland. So, for the first part of Esterland's history, it wasn't actually that important. It was discovered, like, I once took a long journey there and discovered this in the beginning of Season 2. And for most of Durlan's history, it was kind of, like, poor. It was the sheep shearing province. And, like, there wasn't really much to it. It was, sort of inactive and not very, like, developed. But then, once the Titan War began, I had a new governor take the place of Esterland. Her name was Flowery Death, and she was a really good governor. She renovated the entire province and made it awesome. Built a lot of really cool things in it. And Durlan, not Esterland still has a lot of really cool natural stuff. Here's Tri-Province National Park, which Esterland has a big share of. And yeah, she was actually planning on running for deputy, Flowery Death, but then the Titans sort of attacked her province, and she was able to defend them. To not defend them, defend them off. But she couldn't run for deputy due to these circumstances. But yeah, the Esterland is now one of the most successful provinces, and unlike the rest of them, is actually not planning to separate from the Green Plateau. So yeah, that's Esterland. Now the next province is Kanaya. Now Kanaya, like just the region that Kanaya is now inhabits, has had a really long history before the Green Plateau even existed, which is all covered in, again, the last video I made. Watch that if you want. Link is in the description. Yeah, this is the current province of Kanaya, the Green Plateau province of Kanaya. So now, Kanaya was actually, I'm going to sum up this history as fast as I can. The world used to be sort of ruled by a bunch of dogs with godly powers, and Kanaya was their homeland. The end. But also, a weird thing about Kanaya is its capital city actually used to be the capital city of the Blue Plateau, and Kanaya right now is, for all of Season 3, has been the Green Plateau's military province. So the reason I did this was just in case anyone in the Blue Plateau wanted to, like, start an uprising and have the Blue Plateau rise again, it would be in the military province, so the Green Plateau military would be right there, just in case anyone wanted to restart the Blue Plateau, but that never even happened. So yeah, Kanaya was actually, this is the place where we went and killed the Ender Dragon in the middle of Season 2. And yeah, Kanaya has been the military province for all of Season 3. But the thing is, like, it was only, like, for managing the military, just had a few military bases and stuff. And not many people ever actually lived here, which is good because, like, almost all of the forests were, like, sacred to those ancient Kanayan dogs. So it's good. Most of the nature of Kanaya is untouched, and almost all of it has this taiga biome. And also, like, Kanaya is still, the coast of Kanaya is the busiest seaports in the world, and that's because Kanaya sort of sits on a transition zone between the original spawn spot, which we'll be discussing in the next province, and, like, the Green Plateau. And it's also, like, where a lot of military ships come from. Like, the military is organized here, but the battles in the Titan War weren't really fought here. So Kanaya has always been sort of like the middleman. So now let's talk about the province Australis. Now, if you're talking about when I discovered each of these provinces' territories, Australis would have been first, because that's where the original spawn spot is, right down here at the bottom tip of Australis. Now, the reason this part didn't come first was because, like, even though I spawned here, I left immediately to go look for new land and then settled in the Green Plateau up here. And I didn't really come back and, like, actually colonize this land until much later. But yeah, this is where the original spawn spot is, and this is where everyone spawns when they first join the Green Plateau server. Again, so many things are called Green Plateau. So yeah, this is the original spawn spot where I first ever spawned. And, like, I didn't really build much here when I first got there. As soon as I spawned, I pretty much left immediately to go exploring for new territory because, like, the land that at least the original spawn spot occupies is really not that appealing. No offense to the original spawn spot. But yeah. Now, it actually had a bit of a rough history in Season 2, because since it was the spawn spot, it was super important, like, for both sides, because that was how we would recruit new people, so there was a lot of fighting over this land, as you can see from this picture. But after the Civil War ended, we sort of, like, renovated the spawn and made it really cool, and this is where everyone spawns at first, and they can choose their province. And we also made a new capital city of the province, like, right next to all the wreckage from the old spawn spot, so it's a pretty neat city. And Australis' official job is the building province, but most of the building they do is, like, in other places. Like, that's why the capital city has such cool architecture. But yeah, like, this part of Australis by the spawn is the only part of Australis where things really happen. So that means the rest of it has always been, like, untouched and is a really cool natural area. And there is, like, a few small villages here and there. But yeah, for the most part, Australis' main purpose has always been being the spawn. So yeah, now the next province is New Relica. This is like the unofficial joke province of the Green Plateau. I mean, no offense to. Well, there's no one living in New Relica right now. That's kind of why it's the joke province. So when I was giving each of the provinces jobs, I kind of made up a bunch of stuff about this being like the transportation province, and that job is just as boring as it sounds. Like, I mean, there were like horse stables here and there, but yeah, like, so almost no one ever really joined this province, and I sort of made a capital city real quick and everything, and sort of called it a province. And I knew that no one would really want to be part of the transportation province because, like, what would they even do? And but the reason for that was because New Relica actually, for a long time, had a more important secret purpose. It was actually where all the data for the mods were stored. But then, once the Titans first landed in the overworld, the first place they attacked was New Relica. The Titan Selene came in, and she deleted all of the modded data, which is over here. And that's actually how the mods got removed from the server. For most of the server's history, it was a modded server, but after this, like all the mods got removed, and there were no mods during the Titan War, and there are still no mods today. But we've actually managed to adapt to that, and we still won the war, so I guess it was for the best. Like, if this had never happened, who knows what would have happened. But yeah, but despite the fact that its job was fake, there's still a lot of cool places in New Relica, and it actually also has a pretty cool history because the name New Relica, it's named after the ancient Relica Empire, which it sort of occupied the same land hundreds of Minecraft years ago. Again, history episode. And it did sort of serve somewhat of an important purpose. We dug a canal in the middle of Season 3 through the entire continent, and New Relica, being the transportation province, is where it stopped through. So, like, I guess you could say New Relica has always been sort of important, even if almost no one ever lived there. There was this guy, Krypton, who was the governor for all of its existence. Really good governor, but it just, uh, through no fault of his own, New Relica never really took off. Especially after the Titans managed to get past my security and like remove all the mods, New Relica didn't really have a purpose, but it's still cool nonetheless. And since there's almost nothing there, it got conquered really easily by the Titans in the Titan War. So Nava Ket, who we talked about earlier with that really strong military, came in and sort of rescued the province. And Nava Ket has been building a lot of towns like this one there, and the towns supposedly still belong to Nava Ket even though they're on New Relica's territory. So if Nava Ket becomes its own country, chances are New Relica will join it. But yeah, anyway, that's New Relica. So now let's talk about the province Hyperland. Now, Hyperland is actually the only province that used to actually be two provinces. Like, during the time when there were two plateaus, the Civil War and shortly after, like, there was a wall separating, like, the lands in between the Green Plateau, like, the actual Green Plateau, and the Blue Plateau. So, yeah, and after the Civil War was over, when we started turning the villages into provinces, we made two provinces here. Well, each of us made a Hyperland. We had the North Hyperland, and they had South Hyperland. And they basically did the same thing. They were both redstone provinces. It just couldn't be the same province because it was two different countries. But when the plateaus were unified, so were the provinces, and now it's just all called Hyperland. So yeah, Hyperland didn't is the second youngest province after the one that I'm about to do. This is the second last province, and it didn't really become a thing until the beginning of Season 3. And it was never that involved in anything, but it was actually the most peaceful province historically. Like, it was never involved in the Civil War, and it was never attacked by the Titans, wasn't really involved in the Titan War either. So it's always been peaceful and tranquil, even if not that much happened in the province in general. But maybe that's why the Titans never chose to attack it. Well, actually, it's debatable, because, like, the land that Hyperland currently occupies has actually seen a lot of war, but that's because the land that has been fought over like, while it was being fought over, it wasn't part of Hyperland at the time, because neither of the Hyperlands existed then. This was back during the Civil War. Because Hyperland actually owns all of the land that used to surround, like, the Blue Plateau capital, except it doesn't own the Blue Plateau capital itself. Remember, that belongs to Kanaya, the military province. So yeah, it still has a lot of, even if not much happened there, it was still pretty important, being the Redstone province. Has a few important redstone trading cities and stuff. So yeah, that's Hyperland. Now the final province, Tradonia, which just may have the most complicated history and stuff out of all of them. So let's get into it. Now, right after the Civil War ended, when there were two countries, we sort of left all of this territory, like, neutral, for it to be a trading, this was Village 9 at the time, for it to be a trading village between the two nations, the Green Plateau and the Blue Plateau. However, its neutrality was its weakness, because a group of mercenaries eventually took it over and made it into their own thing. They called it the Dark Plateau. And it was its own country for, like, I don't know, 2 or 3 weeks. It was the most short-lived country in the history of this entire world. But yeah. And actually, the Dark Plateau is what caused the Blue Plateau to fall and the Green Plateau to regain control of everything. Like, when Petercraft was trying to rise back to power of the Blue Plateau, we had a quote-unquote peaceful meeting where Petercraft tried to poison me, except I recovered from the poison, and then, because of this, everyone in the Blue Plateau sort of turned against Petercraft, and then, in all the political chaos, I managed to rise up again as leader of the entire world, and the Dark Plateau sort of just went along with it, and they were also had to apologize for almost resulting in my death. But yeah, anyway, so yeah, the Dark Plateau joined the Green Plateau as the province Tradonia, which it is now. Now, but even after they joined the Green Plateau country, they still sort of had an imperialistic mindset. Like, what the Governor Dynasty would do is, like, here's just a map of what he would do. This is Tradonia. He would like train people, other citizens of his own province, to try and go out into other provinces and get elected governor of those. Not get elected, get chosen by me, because I choose the governors. Or, well, the leader chooses the governors, and I was leader at the time. Alright, okay, back to this. So yeah, these were the three provinces that he sort of had puppet governors of, and actually, this island belongs to Tradonia, even though it's all the way over here. It's weird. And yeah, so what he would do is he would have, like, puppet governors of provinces. These were the three provinces, Australis, Laan, and Nuclea, that he managed to have puppet governors of. And he would have them voluntarily agree to, like, consolidate into one mega province. So he was sort of creating his own empire within the Green Plateau Empire. He tried to do this, but I stopped him. And he also, like, even though he didn't really do this, Tradonia had always made lots of investments to develop really fast, which it did. It, like, Noxus, the capital of Tradonia, is the second biggest city in the world, next to Manplatin in the Green Plateau. But yeah, like, there are a lot of really cool, fancy-looking places throughout the entire province. And the Governor Dynasty, even if his plans for world domination didn't work, he still ran for deputy. And he sort of made a lot of investments that he was planning to, like, do when he got elected deputy, but since he didn't win the election, those investments sort of, like, stressed Tredonia's economy a lot, because, like, he had invested in a lot of stuff that would never happen because he didn't get elected deputy. And it got even worse when the Titan War began. The Titans attacked Tradonia, and Tradonia actually managed to fight them off, but Tradonia sort of, like, wasted the last of their money in the process of doing so. So Tradonia went bankrupt, and now it's sort of a dead province, like, but all the really cool stuff that were built when Tradonia was, like, in its golden age still remain. Like, politically, Tredonia's not doing so well, but, like, the stuff never got destroyed. Like, all the really awesome cities and other sites and everything are still there in Tradonia today. So yeah, those are all the 12 provinces of the Green Plateau. So now I will do a montage of some clips from all the provinces, and while I'm doing that, I will play each of the provinces' anthems.